Good evening. Today we are continuing to learn the Hebrew grammar. Last week we had our first class. We had introduction into the Hebrew language, and we explained why in Hebrew we only have consonants and not vowels, and why we don't have punctuation. We also explained why we don't have capital letters, only the regular block letters, no capital, no difference between capital and small letters. And last week we started learning the alphabet and practicing with it, and we learned the first 6 letters and 2 vowels. We learned letters from Aleph until Vav, Aleph, Bet, Vet, Gimel, Dalet, Hey, Vav, and we also learned the 2 vowels Kamatz and Patach. And in this class, we are going to pronounce both of them as A. I mentioned that in reality, there is a difference between a Kamatz and Patach. That's for more advanced students. Now, we are on page 4 of this book. This is the first Hebrew primer, and this is class number 2. We are in chapter 1, page 4. The next 5 letters and 1 new vowel. Again, for those that just joined, we are on page 4 of the book. The next 5 letters, Zayin, Het, Tet, Yud, Kaf, and Chaf, and 1 new vowel, the E sound. So look on page 4, Z as in zebra, that stands for Zayin. And the letter Het we spoke about last time, that there are 3 letters that sound similar, and that is Hey, Het, and Chaf. Last week we covered the letter Hey, and that is just breath, Hey. The next letter is Het, and that has a sound, the guttural sound He. It's stronger than Hey, but it's softer than Chaf. The next letter is Tet, which has the sound of T as in tall. Tall. Yud as in yes. Yud is the smallest letter. It's just a little comma, and it's above the line. And the last letter, it can be written in 2 different ways, either with a dot inside. The dot is called dagesh, and that would be kaf or chaf without dagesh. Kaf is as in kitty, or chaf, that's the strongest out of the 3 letters. Hey, Het, and chaf. Chaf is the strongest. It's like the Russian che. Hey, we said, is like the English H, hey, and the Het is something in between. And again, it's guttural Het. Now, if it's difficult for you, in the meantime, you can pronounce Het and Chaf as the same. And in fact, most Ashkenazi Jews pronounce Het and Chaf the same way. But Sephardim generally differentiate between Het and Chaf. But the letter Hey, everyone pronounces differently. Now, let's see the notes on the bottom of the page. Note 1 tells you that letter Chaf and Kaf are written the same, and in Sefer Torah there is no difference between them. As we said, the dots and lines below and next to the letter are of oral tradition origin, and therefore the Sefer Torah only has the letter. So you see the letter written the same way, but it's pronounced differently. Either Chaf without the dagesh, without the dot, or Kaf with the dot. Number two, letters Het and Chaf are both, for beginners, they're both pronounced the same with a rasping H sound, as in the German pronunciation of the word Bach. Okay. Three, the new vowel, which is written as a dot under a letter, is pronounced as E, and it can be written two ways, either just a simple dot under the letter or a dot followed by a yud, but that yud would not be pronounced. The addition of yud does not change the sound of the vowel. There is no difference in the pronunciation between, for example, B with a yud or B without a yud. Both sound like the English word be. Now we go to page 5. Look-alike letters. This is very useful because some letters do look similar and you have to pay attention to the differences. For example, Het and Hey. I'm going from left to right, like in English for now. Het and Hey, they look similar except that the Hey has a break in its leg, but the pronunciation is different. Hey or Het. And the meaning of the word, of course, is going to be different. Now, next set of letters is Kaf as opposed to Bet. They both look similar, except that the Bet has a tail on the bottom. Be or Ke. Bet or Kaf. And similarly, without the Dagesh, Vet or Chaf look similar. Again, pay attention to the tail on the Bet. And the last set of letters, Yud, Zayin, and Vav. If Yud by mistake is written a little bit longer, it may look like a Vav. And in some cases, it may look like a Zayin. And Vav and Zayin themselves look very similar. They're the same height and similar shape, except that Vav has a head that is tilted only one way, and Zayin has a head that goes both ways, right and left. It looks more like a hat on top of a stick. So Vav, Zayin, and Yud. Be careful, practice those letters. Check up words. In many examples in this book, Hebrew letter and vowel combinations are shown with English words that have the same sound to help you to check yourself whether you're reading correctly or not. This will make it easier for you to check your pronunciation of new Hebrew letters and vowels as you learn them. For example, and now we're going to learn from right to left, like Hebrew is supposed to be read. Bug, bug. Ad, ad. Bob, ha, ha. Now second line. Bach, heat. Key, aha. Eat, that's the third line. Eat, yacht, easy. So they all sound like English words, but they're written with Hebrew letters. Practice them as I read. You can read along or on your own time. And now let's do the exercises. Every chapter ends with exercises. Again, we're on page 5 at the bottom of the page with exercises. It may seem that we have included too many, but we urge you to do them all. In learning a language, it is as in learning to drive a car, practice is the most important part. It's better to say it an extra time and know it well than to say it not enough times and then in the future your learning of Hebrew is going to fail because you don't have a good foundation. Just like in elementary school, the first grade is the most important because you learn the foundations, how to pronounce the Aleph Bet. Now, I'm in line 1 and I'm reading from right to left. First, just the sounds to recognize the letters. Vav has the sound V. It's the same as vet, the same sound V. So I'm starting again, line 1, from right to left. V, V, V. Yud, Y, Z, V, Y, V, Y. Now the same thing with other letters. Line 2, just the sound that the letter makes. B, H, V, K, B, V, V, H, V. And now line 3, additional letters. V, V. When I say hey, you might not hear it, but I'm just basically breathing out. V. Now we go to line 4. K, B, K, V, K, B. Now line 5, the first letter is silent, so we don't pronounce it. K, B. Again, Aleph is silent. G, D, B, Y, D. And line 7. I may have skipped a line, but let's do line 6 again. D, silent letter Aleph, G, K, H, D, B, Y, D, H. And the last line 7, the letter is Zion, Z, B, D, V, Z, T, K, Y, silent letter Aleph, and Z. Now, in the instructions, it also asks you to circle the letters in each line that are the same as the letters in the box in order to recognize the letters and differentiate them from similar letters. You can do that on your own. And now let us go to page 6, and here we have combinations of letters with vowels. This is exercise number 2, page 6. I'm on line 1. Z, Z, za, 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 va. Note the difference between vav and zayin. Va, it's a vet, but has the same sound as vav. Va. B, za, z, a, zag. As we explained last class, if a letter at the end of the word does not have any vowels, you pronounce just the sound of the letter. As if there is a shva. Later we're going to learn about shva, just 2 dots, which means just the sound of the letter itself. Zag. Now we go to line 2. He, ha, ha, he, e, b, ha, z, he, z, he, hia. Now this is a funny combination. Whenever we have a letter het or a letter hey, instead of pronouncing the letter and it's at the end of the word, we pronounce the vowel first and then the letter. For example, if there would be a Het with a patach, with a line underneath, we would pronounce it as ah instead of ha. So whereas here in English you might say he ha, but the proper pronunciation would be he ah. In the biblical Hebrew, you would usually not find that, but rather you would find the hey at the end of the word with a dot in it, and then you would pronounce it with ah, and you would stress it more. Okay, now let's go to line 3. T, ta, ti, ha, z, ah. There is no letter sound, so we just pronounce the vowel. V, ha, V, ta, di, bit. Fourth line. Yi, ya, ya, vi, va, zi, gi, yi, va, va, ba, yad. Yad is a Hebrew word that means a hand. The hand is yad. Now, interestingly, we say that a Hebrew word has within its letters its meaning. So they say that within the word yad, you have a definition of what yad is. And that is by taking the numerical value. Yud is 10 and Daled is 4. So together is 14. And 14 is the number of parts of your fingers. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14. So the yad, a hand, has 14 different steps in it that we use. That's what makes the hand functional. Okay. Now let's go to line 5. Ki, ka, ka, ba, va, va, ki, bi, e, v, v, kit. Now we go to line 6. Chi, ki, cha, cha, ba, vi, vi, gi, da, cha, ha. And again, if it's at the end of the word, it would be ach, bach. Line 7. Again, this is exercise 2, page 6, line 7. Vi, vi, ha, hi, ha, da, di, gi, di, ba, bi, it. Line 8. Va, ha. The last word does not have a meaning. There is a word that has a similar root, but that's a more advanced word. Okay, again, line 8. Va, ha, da, ga, ba, a, ka, ya, ta, ha, za, baz. Baz. Baz in Hebrew means embarrassment. Okay, now line 9. E. E in Hebrew means if. B. B in Hebrew means myself or in me. Now, next word, third word, ga. Whenever hey appears at the end of the word, it is silent. B, ga. The fourth word is da. He, va, zi, ha, ti, ya, ki. Ki in Hebrew means because. Ki, because. And finally, line 10. Kat, hit, hat, av. Av in Hebrew means father. Gid, vav. Vav, for those that want to know, means a hook. Za, ach means a brother. And keys. Okay, now we finished exercise 2. Exercise 3 is a writing exercise. Every person should ideally do it on their own. Using either block or script style, write each of the letters that you have learned so far. We learned 11 letters. So write each letter 10 times. First without vowels and then with various vowels. As you write, say the sounds out loud. And remember that Hebrew is written from right to left. Okay, now we go to exercise 4 together. Read the following combinations of letters aloud. And we start with line 1. Again, remember, we read from right to left. Av, ad, ag, az, bat, vach, ba, va, ava. Line 2. Hit, hiv, hiv, hid, yih, yi, bi, ki, bi, ka. Now line 3. At, baz, viz, it, gav, dag, ti, he. He in Hebrew means she. Dayag. Dayag, the last word in line 3, in Hebrew means a fisherman. Now we go to line 4. Kach, bi, vav, kiv, gat, hid, yad, zacha, gida. Now line 5. Hag, 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 as in Hag Sameach means a holiday. Hag. Third word in line 5. Ziv, tav, ki, yach, div, gad, kacha. Kacha in Hebrew means so. Like this. Okay, now we'll go to line 6. Zach, ta, yid, kav, kiv, bag, da, vid, chida, chida. Chida in Hebrew means a riddle. Chida. And the last line 7. God. God is a name of a person. God. One of the 12 tribes. Kav. Ba. Bi. Av. Hav. Bag. Bit. Hata. Okay, now we go to page 7. And here, again, it's a written exercise. Every person should do it on their own. Using either block or script style, write out exercise 4 and say the sounds as you write. So it's a review of exercise 4, but here you write every letter yourself. Now, exercise 6 is a very useful exercise. gives you a very interesting practice. You take an English word and you try to write it with Hebrew letters. We can go through them, and I will just tell you what letters it would have, but you would have to write them on your own. So, number one, heave. It would be spelled Hey, Yud, Vet. Heave. Beat. Beat. Bet, Yud, Tet. Hot. Hey, Tet. And again, the vowels, um, depending on the sound, you would have to add on your own. Word number four, Viva. Vav, Yud, Vav, Hey. Cut. Yes, someone is saying that instead of writing a Yud, you can just write a vowel underneath, just a dot. That's true. Just to make it easier, I'm pronouncing the extra Yud. Cut. Chaf, or kaf rather, chaf with a dot inside, kat, kaf, and tet. Ease, aleph with a dot underneath, or yud next to it, and zayin. 7, dot, daled, tet, with a patach underneath, a line. Hit, hey, tet, or hey, yud, tet. Oz, aleph, zayin. Got, gimel, tet. Deed, daled, yud, daled. Bach, depending how you pronounce it, Bach or Bach, you'll either spell it with bet chaf or bet het. Yacht, yud, tet. Eat, aleph with a dot underneath and tet, or aleph yud tet. Tea, tet, yud with a dot underneath, under tet. Kag, kaf, gimel. Tat, tet, tet with a patach, a line under the first tet. Bead, bet, yud, daled. Now, the following exercise 7 gives us real Hebrew words, and this is a reading exercise, so we'll do it together. Again, we're on page 7, exercise 7. Line 1, reading from right to left. Avi means my father. Az means then. Ach means brother. Ahad means one. Av, again, father. Ahav means he loved. Aviv means spring. Avad, he lost. Second line. Ava means he wanted. Av, a father. Akkad, name of a country or a town. Ahaz, he held. You don't have to remember this. I'm just saying for those that are familiar or want to write it down with a pencil quickly, but it's not necessary. Right now, we're just practicing reading. Ahaz, he held, he grasped. Ba, he came. Ba'a, she came. Batach, he trusted. Biza, he embarrassed. Line 3, Baz, embarrassment. It also has a different meaning. Next, Bazad, not sure what it means. Bad means cloth, specifically linen cloth. Bada, means to make up a story, a false story. Badad, alone. Badad, different spelling of vowels. Not sure if it changes the meaning. Bahat, not sure of the meaning. Ba. Now, line 4. Baza, bazaz. Similar words. Baza means he embarrassed. Bazaz means he took spoils of war. B. Ga'a, he was haughty. Ga'av, not sure. Gav, back. Gava, he collected. Gadad, he cut. Line 5. God, name of a person. Gadi, my person. God. Gada, Gaha, Gaza, Giza, and notice that in the word Giza, both Gimel and Zayin have a dot. Now, we mentioned already that some letters don't change their pronunciation, but rather you read it with more emphasis on these letters as if they are doubled. And as in English, if you have two M's or two P's, you pronounce it with more emphasis. However, Yemenite Jews do pronounce Gimel with a dagesh or without dagesh differently. One they pronounce as Ge and one they pronounce as Je. But we will pronounce Ge the same thing. Giza, Hagad, Gazaz. Now, line 6. Gid. Gid means a sinew, like a tendon or a ligament. Da'ag means he was worried. Da'a. Davav. Diba. Daga. Dayag. Dida. Line 7. David. That's the name of David Hamelech, King David. David. Second word is the same pronunciation with the yud. David. Dava. Daha. Hagig. Haga. Hada. He. Line 8. Hava. Hava. The difference between two is that in one word, vav is without the dot, dagesh, and the second word it has. So you would emphasize vav more. Hava. Ka'av. Ha'av. Haya. Hahi. Ha'ach. Hav. Line 9. Havi. Hazav. Zavad. Zavach. Zibach. Zav. Zahav. Zahav means gold. Hazahav. Line 10. Ha-chiba. Yadav. Zag. Za-za. Ziv. Ziz. Ziza. Zaka. Line 11. Chava. Chavat. Hag. Hagi. Haga. Hagav. Hagag. Hada. Line 12. Hadad. Hadid. Hada. Chiva. Chiva. Haza. Hach. Hata. Chita. Line 13. Haya. Chida. Haya. And again, you notice Yud has a dot inside, so you would emphasize it more. Haya. Tav. Tabach. Tach. tit, Ya'av. Line 14, Ya'a, Yiga, Yad, Hayad, Yadi, Yada, Yidah, Yahad. Line 15, Kavad, Ka'av, Kava, Kad, Kiha, Kazav, Ki, Kacha. The last word. We finished exercise 7 on page 7, and with that we finished chapter 1, Mazal Tov, and now we continue to chapter 2, and we have the last half of the alphabet. We did already 11 letters, and now we have the next 6 letters that we will learn, plus 2 more vowels, and the letters are Lamed Mem Nun, Samech Ayin, Pei, and Fei. And the 2 vowels that we're going to learn, one is Segol, the 3 dots under a letter, and one is Tzere, 2 dots under the letter. They are both pronounced similarly as but Ashkenazim add a yud to the ending of the Tzere, the 2 dots, so they would say it as A, and the 3 dots they will pronounce as E, but for Sephardim we pronounce both of them the same, E and E. Okay, now let's go through the letters. Lamed, L as in look, and as I mentioned before, Lamed can either be soft, L, like Russian L, or hard, L, like in the word look, as opposed to a Russian word legoti. Okay. Now mem, m as in moon, nun, n as in now, samech as in sun, ayin is silent, but when it has a vowel, you pronounce the vowel with a guttural input, ah. Instead of for aleph, you say ah. Okay. At the beginning stages, if it's hard for you, you don't have to do it, but ideally, especially for prayer, one should pronounce ayin properly. And the last 2 letters are pei and fei. Pe as in park, and fe as in food. Okay, and the 2 vowels, tsere as in hay, and segol as in bed. But again, according to Sephardim, we pronounce both of them the same way. So in this class also, we will pronounce it the Sephardi way. Now let's read the notes. Number 1, the letter ayin, like the letter aleph, is silent. Pronounce the vowel following the ayin, but not the ayin itself. And again, for Sephardim, we have a custom to pronounce ayin correctly with the guttural sound. Number 2, pei and fei are the same letter, although pei is pronounced as P in people, and fei is pronounced as F in food. Now, 3, the new vowel tsere, with 2 dots under the letter, may be written in 2 ways: as 2 dots under a consonant, or as 2 dots under a consonant followed by a yud. In both of these, it's pronounced the same way. For Ashkenazim, A, and for Sephardim, E. We don't add the y sound at the end. There's no difference if in the pronunciation of he and he. Both sound like the English word hey. Again, this is for Ashkenazim, hey. We would pronounce it as he. And line 4, the new vowel segol, the 3 dots, is pronounced as e in a bed and is infrequently followed by a yud. That is less common. Now we go to page 9, and again we look at letters that are similar in their shape. Going from left to right, chaf and nun. Nun looks like chaf, except that the two side lines are shorter. Chaf has longer side lines, and nun has shorter side lines. Nun and chaf. Next, the middle set is nun and gimel. Very similar. If the font in a book is not laser print, then the indent in the gimel may look like a straight line, and then you may confuse it with a nun. So gimel has an empty space in its leg, and nun has a flat bottom. Nun and gimel. And mem and tet, they look very similar, but one is almost inverted version of the other. Mem has a split on the bottom, and tet has a split on top. Okay, check up words. Again, we have English words spelled in Hebrew. Safety, safety, safety. Eight, et. Less. Second line, meal, meal. Say, bed. And the third line, maybe, peg. Okay, now reading practice. It may be difficult because now you have 16 letters to keep in your mind, and that's why we have a lot of practice. You can do it slowly. I'm going to read it a little bit faster, but try to follow along and later review it as well.
Rabbi, may I ask you a question?
Yes, sure.
On the checkup words, so for example, safety, we just learned that the two dots should be pronounced as hey, for example, so safety. So, but I did hear you say a few times not saying it as a, but e.
Yes, because Ashkenazim will pronounce an extra sound y at the end of the vowel, and we don't. So Ashkenazim would read that first word as safety, safety, but Sephardim would read it as safety.
So is this book Ashkenazim, based on Ashkenazim? Is that what it seems like it?
The pronunciation of tzere, the two dots, a, is Ashkenazi, but other pronunciations are Sephardi. For example, they would use taf and not saf. Okay, so I'm reading the exercises the Sephardi way, so you will not hear the difference between a tzere and a segol. In the pronunciation of ayin, they also say the same as aleph, silent. And as I mentioned, but for Sephardim, we pronounce it ayin. And similarly for chaf and het, this book says pronounce it the same way. And again, for beginners, if you follow the book, it's okay. But for more advanced students, Sephardim pronounce chaf and het differently. So there are some differences, and again, I am pointing out the differences in Sephardi pronunciation. Okay, so we are doing exercise reading practice. Line 1, leil, let, al, Al, less, le. Again, hey at the end is silent. Le, lama. Lama means why. Met, med, mes, meal, mal, mid, meg, method. Line 3. Need, nev, nel, not, ne, nel, nez, naha. Line 4. Sell, said, se, sah, sev, sev, sad, sacha. Line 5. Ed, ed means a witness. Is, et, az, al, es, av, ene. Ashkenazim would pronounce this last word as a, nay. We pronounce it as ene. Line 6. Pa, pav, pig, pil. Pil means an elephant. Pid, pe, pev, pa, fa. Line 7. Ki, yet, tet, bit, set, less, less, let. Line 8. Kes, pes, pel, sel, said, lev, ed, led. Sieve, line 9. See, see, see. All three words are the same. The fourth word, med, is, piz, tease, des. Line 10. Meet, met, set, sat, lat, dal, dat, ma. Line 11. Mi, ne, na, pev, pat, pez, es, oz. Oz means bold, courageous. And finally, line 12. Gel, pel, sel, tel, del, hail, hail. Hail means army. With this, we finish line 9. And now we have the last 5 letters. The last 5 letters on page 10. Listed below are the last 5 letters of the Hebrew alphabet and 2 new vowels. The letters are tzadik, tzadi, kuf, reish, shin, sin, taf. And the 2 vowels are or, holam, either dot on top, or u. Now, someone is suggesting that we should split our class and leave it for next time, and that is a good idea because it is getting overwhelming. There is a lot of practice that needs to be done. Please review everything we've done and do the written exercises and review the reading exercises as well. If you have any questions, you may ask. Otherwise, we will stop our class now.
Thank you, Rabbi. That was great.
You're
Thank you,
welcome.
Rabbi.
You're welcome. Have a good night.